outro, no games, no nothing. I'm gonna cut straight to the chase here. So, a couple of my friends, I'm a massive wrestling fan. Me and Clone are both really into writing in general, characters, just the build of everything. That's mostly what we want to work on as a company, and we don't have, and we never have had a talent pool when it comes down to artistry, when it comes down to on-air personalities, and we both work full time and try to have this creative process. We try to actually do stuff just to branch out. Over the past year, I think we've gotten a little over 1,000 views on almost 100 videos, and I'm not even mad about it. I felt like for guys that don't want to be in front of the camera, there are people who clearly have given up a lot sooner and a lot easier. And like this entertainment in general is not easy to do. I've done a lot of writing, comedy, stuff like that. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of stress. And when you're working full time on top of that, it's hard to actually stay ahead of everyone else, because you might have an idea, but someone else is going to have that same idea. And if you can't complete it in a timely manner, they will. With that being said, that's why a lot of our stuff doesn't have a lot of editing to it. That's why it, like with this, when I'm in the mood to do it, I'm going to just shoot and go. That's how this is going to go. As a lot of times, I'm probably just going to do it live, do it one take, because I don't have a lot of time in between everything else that I'm trying to do and work on to actually fully handle a proper podcast. So it's going to be extremely bare bones, because we have the equipment. I have everything I need to do a decent production, but I don't have the time. That's the one element that I'm missing currently. So to the actual topic at hand that that I wanted to do this on today. A lot of my friends who know that I'm really big into wrestling have been asking me why the WWE is doing a brand split. And I'm going to break it down on multiple levels here real quick. Because everyone's like, well, this is dumb. They did this in the past. It didn't work. They also didn't have their own network in the past. They are also still, now this was back then and this is today, the biggest game in North America. They have, the ratings for SmackDown have always been and it's always been a B show, which I don't actually agree with, because there was a time where that was the definite A show, aka mid 2000s, when Triple H and Scott Steiner and Triple H and Kevin Nash were headlining Raw. You had like Brock Lesnar and Eddie Guerrero and Kurt Angle and those types of guys over on SmackDown just completely tearing it up, along with American Badass Undertaker. Like, you had a stacked SmackDown roster at that point in time. And SmackDown, even though it was recorded, was worth watching. And it was a headlining factor. Now, both shows are going to be live. Throw into the mix that you have NXT. They're actually, it's not it's not A versus B anymore. That's not how they're portraying it. That's not how they're looking at it. So you have, the dynamics have been tweaked. The rosters are already split. They're doing, Raw has 3 hours versus SmackDown's 2. Raw is still being viewed as the flagship, but they're actually doing old guard versus new guard. The irony being that a lot of the old guard is actually on SmackDown. The newer talent, a lot of it went to Raw. Now, the talent that was brought up from NXT did go to SmackDown for the most part. Um, but you now have a three-ring circus, as you have Monday Night Raw, you have SmackDown, and you have NXT, which was a developmental brand that is now turning into its own unique touring brand. So, in terms of live events, they can compete on a much grander scale than before. They're going to actually be able to do different specials because everyone was like, well, there's going to be more pay-per-views because they're wanting to do like pay-per-view specifics for the brands, and then have the big four, and obviously probably one a month. Well, they'll rotate. So like Raw will get the next pay-per-view that would hit the actual cable market, whereas SmackDown would then get a network pay-per-view maybe the following week. I don't know how they plan on handling that, but it's not going to matter because you're going to actually give your workers a break. Because I mean, kind of, because there's always been two touring house shows regardless, and now it's just official brands. So it's the Raw house show, it's the SmackDown house show, so you get to see that competition on that scale. You also have the championship breakdowns, where you actually don't know until after Battleground which show is going to have the WWE title, if they're going to recreate a new world title, which they're big enough to have two, regardless of what anyone wants to argue. They're big enough. And in terms of a business, they are monopolizing North America without actually monopolizing them, because you've got their developmental system, which is currently doing the Cruiserweight Classic. You have them picking up talent literally all over the world, and they're even rating New Japan, Ring of Honor, which, let's be honest, Ring of Honor has become the new ECW when it comes down to getting rated by WWE. If you're in Ring of Honor, you're at least getting looked at, especially when you consider a lot of the top talent from the past couple years and on the main roster now started out in Ring of Honor. But so they have their performance center. Well, they also have all these schools around. So you have NXT as an actual brand that tours, and it's a training ground. But you also have the performance center, which is where the actual training, that's their classes. That's where they learn. And the independent scene now with like Raw, Evolve, I mean, TNA is still on national level, but it's trying. I'm proud that they actually got a lot of attention for the final deletion. Regardless of what anybody has to say about that, the fact that they got exposure pleased me. The Hardys they still got it. Matt Hardy is crazy. I will say that. But those two are actually, they've turned everything that's been going on the past couple of years into a very followable story. They're still building on it, and they're doing everything that they can, quite literally, to help pull TNA up, which it needs that help. So, tip my hat to you. I'm not wearing one, but if it was, I would. But back to the main topic here. They're going to be rolling out all this content for the network, be it through extra pay-per-view specials, just specials in general. They will probably end up doing, like I heard that they're going to do Clash of Champions. Well, now you get an actual Clash of Champions where it's brand versus brand. It's the new Night of Champions meets Battleground, or not Battleground, Bragging Rights. That's the one I was looking for. So you kind of get that blend. You get old as new, new as old, and so they can actually take and really change the perspective of what they're doing as a company, while all these old, all the old guard, all the old wrestlers, a lot of them have schools now. So they're training new guys, new talent, and they have these connections with WWE. There's the Performance Center where these trainers are actually still going in. They're working with everybody because trainers are rotating. Everyone's kind of learning from everybody. WWE is actually with NXT using its position to branch out, because like it works with Evolve. It's been working with several different promotions for the Cruiserweight Classic. So even if that's just one time a year, that is one time a year where they are giving exposure to tons of wrestling, like independent prospects, be it through the actual business, through the actual specific wrestler, their skill set. Anyone who's actually been watching, I've watched the first two episodes that have come out, and everyone's getting put over. Yeah, sure, there's always a winner, but it's nothing but back and forth competitive matches. Ronaldo and Bryan are both putting over every single competitor as being worthy of being in the WWE and being worthy of being at this Cruiserweight Classic. They are touting just how good these 32 guys are. Now, to get to the 32, they literally had qualifying matches in independent promotions. So that was an instant English. That was basically an instant marquee match on your card if you were holding a qualifying match, because you now have these two guys. The winner is going to be going on a televised WWE match. This is important in North America. This is important around the world. Like, they're actually establishing and building credibility to just one tournament, which North America doesn't host any really big wrestling tournaments that I know of. Now, that's not saying they don't, but I live here and I've heard of tons of the different New Japan cups that go on and different tournaments in Japan. So clearly one holds more prestige than the other when it comes down to tournament style wrestling. And so I like the fact that we've got that going on. It's all about building their overall brand and strengthening their core as a company is what the brand split's going to do. So it's going to make them more money. It's going to give them more content. It should, on paper, make it a lighter, easier schedule for some of the talent. Because if you look at the breakdown, your main event right now on Raw, your bona fide star is without a doubt Seth Rollins. The fact that they kept Sami Zayn and Owens on the same show, to me, signifies that they want to keep that rivalry going, and that they want everybody to get they want to get each other over, basically. They want both of those guys to get more closer to the main event than they do the mid card, which is nice. That, or Zayn's going to kind of fall back and he's going to start participating in the Cruiserweight division, which is fine because they are building it quite strongly. Oh, apparently I can't talk for 15 minutes without needing a drink there. So it's also going to help the talent regardless of whether it's a lighter schedule or not, as when it's just Raw and then SmackDown, and SmackDown is just being used as a repeat. It's a more wrestling focused show and it doesn't focus on storylines all that much. But when it's just the same guys over and over again for, all 5 hours of the week, you're going to get talent that's bottlenecked, and there's nowhere for them to go. They can't go up. They just kind of go down, or they just go stagnant. Like look at like guys like Ziggler and Cesaro and even Owens to an extent. They don't get always properly showcased, and when you're branching it like that, you give them space to flourish, because now you are like, okay, so John Cena isn't going to be on TV for 45 minutes a week because he's over there on SmackDown. He now gets his 10 minutes of TV time. Instead of, coming out on Raw, cutting a 15-20 minute promo, maybe having a 20-minute match, and then going over to SmackDown and doing a 15-minute match. So, I mean, like, literally, that's almost an hour of John Cena breakdown right there. And I'm just using Cena because, he is one of the top faces, and that is a common occurrence. Like, they did that with Roman Reigns a lot, where a guy who can't really cut one of the best promos would be out on both shows and getting TV time and exposure on both shows. Meanwhile, you have these undercard guys that aren't being utilized, and they're just sitting in the back like, well, maybe next week. Creative doesn't have anything for me this week because Roman Reigns just ate an hour of television. John Cena just ate an hour of television. And so it's a stepping stone system, because eventually, yes, it's going to come crashing down. This is and the fact that they're also the bigger storyline that they are trying to portray is that this brand split isn't solely about the egos and who can do the better job. It's also about who gets the keys to the kingdom when Vince is gone. So like they've underplayed that, but that's like he even mentioned it still when he was in the ring on Raw, and he wants cutthroat competition between the two siblings. So they're actually trying to. There's a lot of stuff that they're trying to do that's positive, and on paper, it's a lot of positive things. The reaction and how it's going to go and how it's going to build is what's going to be negative. My only thing is I am still trying to wrap my head around the people that complained about the brand split because there were going to be more pay-per-views, because they're like, oh, that's just one more pay-per-view I have to pay for. Except you don't, because if you're paying full price for pay-per-view and you have internet access at all, you actually probably just deserve to pay full price for every pay-per-view. Because, in case you didn't notice or know, because you've been living under a rock, you fast forward through everything that's anything remotely talking and just get to guys rolling around in the ring. The network's like super cheap, like it's dirt cheap, like it's $10 cheap. Like, if you want to like and subscribe to this little rant of mine, I will happily send you a gift card. Well, I'll send one person a gift card. I'm not going to send everybody, because all of a sudden, like 300 people like and subscribe to this video, and I'm out a lot of money. I don't have $3,000. I'm sorry. But seriously, it's $10 a month, okay? Versus $60 for one pay-per-view. You buy 2 pay-per-views a year. Let's say the only 2 pay-per-views you watch a year are the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. Mania is over $60 now. It's like $70 or $80. The network literally is almost paid because of WrestleMania for the entire year. And you get all the old Vault stuff. You get clear back to like AWA, NW, the National Wrestling Alliance stuff. Like the library that they have amassed and collected for the network is astonishing. On top of, their replays, their originals, their documentaries. They're just because you got like Swerved, which I haven't really gotten into, but Camp WWE is pretty funny. Um, I mean, look at that. Like it's a full network. They have their own network. That should be enough said right there. Like, you can't say that they're fully stagnant ever, because the programming, the circus act, the entertainment, you might see a lot of recycling. Um, like, that part where last year they literally were trying to stick Roman Reigns in every storyline that worked in the '90s and early 2000s, and tried to basically put him into situations like Brian was in, and Stone Cold, The Rock. Like, literally, you could copy and paste his storylines, and like, no, I remember this from like 5 years ago, or I remember this from 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, or just last year. um and so sometimes that part gets a little stagnant, but as a business, as an actual bona fide juggernaut that they are, they stay that way because they are constantly, and I mean constantly, evolving and changing and trying to do new things. I'm not saying they always work. Sorry, Vince, for bringing this one up, but XFL, anyone? Just saying. Um, so I hope I actually got the full point across as to why the brand split actually is best for business. Until next time, Taru Nation,